How can you make a living with your music reaching millions? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Sonic Storytellers, episode 16. Today is a very exciting day. We have with us Avery Berman from Elevate Audio. Say hi, Avery.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
And today we're going to be chatting about how to reach millions through TV, advertising, and film music. Now, I originally met Avery through Audiojungle. It's a music online marketplace, and it's where you sell music royalty-free for different projects such as TV shows, commercials, films, etc. And his company, Elevate Audio, they are what is considered an elite author. It means they have sold a certain number of tracks, they've reached a certain number of audience, a certain number of popularity. It's a really big deal, and so that's where we originally crossed paths. Elevate Audio, with Audiojungle and outside of Audiojungle, they have reached millions across 5,500 projects, including Ford, Verizon, Taco Bell, Volkswagen, NYU, and so many more. It is such a pleasure to have Avery here with us. His business partner and co-founder, Will Manning, is unable to join us today, but if you'd like to learn more about Elevate Audio and their projects, listen to their music, highly encourage you visit them at elevate-audio.com. There's a link in the show notes. Make sure you check that out. They have a lot of great stuff. So I want to kick this thing off. We are on a tight deadline, time limit today, so we're going to be doing rapid fire questions today, but we are so excited to have this conversation because this is going to help a lot of composers, a lot of people getting started off and trying to build their business. So the first question I have for you, Avery, how many millions do you estimate that your music has actually reached since the inception of Elevate Audio? Because we use this word millions, it's kind of this lofty number, but we mentioned, we had an opportunity to chat a little bit earlier, and you mentioned that one of your game trailers alone has reached 11 million plus. So we're talking big numbers. What do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that introduction. So that's like a really good question. So when we say like millions of people, what I mean is that my music has been heard behind content that's been streamed many millions of times, either through broadcasting on TV or through YouTube or through radio or advertising, so any of these methods. So if I had to give an estimate, I would say on the low end, probably 100 million would be like kind of my estimate. Probably more, but I'd like to be low just because I know that I actually don't get to see all the places that my music ends up, and we'll kind of talk more about that. But when I do, very often I see like 10 million, 11 million, 15 million views on things, and it still exists out in the world, so I know that it's generating more. And so, yeah, like 2 weeks ago, I just saw a new game trailer that used one of my songs, and that one alone had 11 million views. So that's kind of would be my estimate.
Those are large numbers. So it's safe to say that you have a lot of experience in this industry, and I know that we can take your experience with a lot of weight, that you know what you're doing. And so I want to kind of backtrack a little bit before we talk about what you're doing now and how you've grown. I'm most curious about how did you start your musical journey and what led to becoming a professional musician?
Yeah, so actually, when I was a teenager, about 16, my brother picked up guitar, my younger brother, and it kind of inspired me. I was like, I kind of want to do this too. And so we both kind of played acoustic guitar together, and we started to play coffee shops and kind of songwrite. And then one day I picked up FL Studio, and I was like, oh my God. And that was just game changer for me. And then I got Logic after that, and I've kind of been a little bit of a Logic boy ever since then. But the ability to just freely compose whatever was in my mind without anybody else kind of, it was just kind of, I had all these ideas I wanted to express, and I just kind of wanted to try them myself, and that was kind of what led me to be a composer. And then I started to release my music on a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel actually led me to get some radio play on some indie radio stations in LA and New York, and actually one of those radio stations gave me 2 awards for some of my music for being highly streamed. And I kind of wanted to say, okay, now that I'm kind of seeing what it's like to do music, so to say, and I just feel like I always have to make music. It's just something in me, like it's probably in you guys, that I kind of looked at what's the next steps to actually begin to monetize this in a more more consistent way. And that led me to music licensing, where my first music placement was on MTV, the show Guy Code. And I just had like a 30-second little clip behind some people talking about the gym. And I was like, oh, man, this is it. And so that was kind of like my first little taste. And then I knew that I had to dig deeper into it.
That's awesome. You know what's funny is I actually also started off with FL Studio and then eventually upgraded, if you will, to Logic. And that's been my weapon of choice ever since. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, I love Logic. FL Studio, like, they've got some crazy stuff these days. They're all so good.
Yeah, that's true. It's just whatever your weapon of choice is, right?
That's right. Yeah, whatever you use.
So when and why did you decide to start selling music online, and how did that process begin? Because you mentioned that you got your music placed through YouTube, but when did you actually decide, okay, I'm going to be a music composer or a writer, and I'm going to actually actively put my music out on websites to actually get this stuff sold?
So I guess my first introduction was the YouTube channel. Just kind of saying like I need the world to like tell me what they think of this at that time or whatever. I just need to see what it's like to get comments or see what it's like. And I guess it was just always a desire to just connect with people through music. And I suppose getting on websites, like for licensing purposes, like, and we're talking about Audiojungle. If we're talking specific about Audiojungle, I actually had a friend of mine and a bit of a mentor say, hey, you know, I know you're trying to license your music. Why don't you put your stuff on Audiojungle and just see what happens? So I said, okay. So I did. And this was actually when I started to partner with my friend Will Manning, who couldn't make it today. But my friend and partner, we write together. We do stuff together for Elevate Audio. But we had just recently joined up and writing together. And we started to post our music on Audiojungle. And we started to quickly see actually sales. This was about three years ago. And it started to build up traction pretty quickly. And it just so happens that one of our early releases turned into kind of a hit on the website, kind of started to trend and pick up sales. And that was kind of one of the most exciting times actually of our career at that point, because it was kind of like watching our song chart on iTunes, like, except every single sale as it goes up these charts was also being used in projects that were being exposed to more and more people. And it was very exciting, and it kind of showed us that we need to buckle down, go even more. So that's kind of how we started. That was on recommendation from a friend of mine to start posting it to these types of websites.
Wow. So when we're talking about Audiojungle, I know I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm also on Audiojungle. That's how we originally crossed paths. And as an elite author, could you just take a minute to explain, first of all, what an elite author actually means and what benefits there are behind that and how you got to that spot?
Sure. So an elite author on Audiojungle, at least right now at the time of this recording, is after you have generated over $75,000 in sales on the platform. And the benefits that you get if you're an exclusive author with Audiojungle is that you get a higher percentage of your payouts. So when you begin on Audiojungle, if you begin exclusive, you get 50% of all the income. And when you're an elite author, you get 70%. So what we kind of got there just simply by consistency. And this is kind of something that I'd like to hammer home really hard. And that is that as a musician or someone who'd like to do this professionally, your music is kind of your calling card. It's your asset. It's kind of your everything. And you must be very, very often finishing music as often as you kind of can. And I think that the big thing is to get out of your own head and realize that what you're making, there's no perfection on what you're making, and the world's going to see it a little bit differently than you. So the most beneficial thing that you can do for your career is to finish music on a consistent basis and then put it out on these platforms, because that's going to be the thing that can change your life or get it out into the world where it can make a difference for you. I can't tell you the amount of times that like I've released a song and thought that like, oh, I don't like this song isn't good, or like this one doesn't feel as good to me, and that one sold. And then other songs that I finished where I'm like, oh man, this one feels great, like I love this one, people are gonna love it, and like just no attention. So if I only went with the songs that I loved, my career would not be anywhere near where it is today. So I think the big thing is to finish whatever it is that you're working on, get a kind of consistent standard of quality, as you don't release like utter crap, obviously, but you don't have to like necessarily what you're working on. I think the big thing is to finish something, learn the lessons that you learned from that track, and then write another track and just put it out into the world for the world to react to.
Do you have any specific tips for composers looking to start on Audiojungle and building a portfolio? Because I've looked at the Elevate Audio and your portfolio. You have a very nice polished profile. You have a very nice polished logo. and all of your tracks have a description and tags. And can you just walk us through that process of someone starting off? How do they get to that point, and how do they make sure that everything is it through deep linking? Is it through tagging? How does this work? How do they actually build a portfolio that stands out and is successful?
Sure. So, well, when we started, we did not look so polished. Actually, even our entire name began, me and Will kind of were like, okay, we need to like start releasing this stuff here. What's our name going to be? And we weren't even sure at that time who we were, what we were going to be called. And we kind of had a few names. I think one of them was like Up Audio, kind of like other ideas. And then we just kind of like after a few days, we're like Elevate Audio. That's the one that keeps popping. Here we go. Let's move. So it was very much, it wasn't necessarily a completely thought out, like perfected process. It was like, we need to just go. Our first logo I made in Photoshop in like 5 minutes. It was literally a triangle that was like the default shape from Photoshop, because I'm not really a designer by any means. So I kind of just made a triangle. It was blue. I put it up, and then we just started releasing our music with this triangle. And now our triangle looks more polished. I actually had a designer friend help us out. It looks much better now. But with that crappy triangle, we still made tons and tons of sales, and that's kind of how we began. And when we began with our descriptions on our tracks, we certainly weren't doing it all right. We were kind of writing super long descriptions that were kind of unnecessary, like the track begins with a lullabying piano slowly taking you through the drums, and it was like kind of just walking through the song. And like that was okay, but I think one of the things we've realized is that people don't necessarily care about that. What they care about is, what is the song, what will it make me feel like, where else can I find other things, and what else is included. So we don't necessarily have to tell them, we don't have to worry that much about the description. We can let the song speak for itself, and just write in a few sentences some hot keywords about what emotions are contained in the song, and then link to other songs. That's kind of what we do today. But I think what I'm trying to get at is, in the beginning, we were far from perfect, but the thing that we did do right was release music consistently. And that's the one thing that we've done right for since the beginning, is just release music consistency. And I'm sure where we are today, maybe we'll change in a year or two as we continue to learn more lessons, because I mean, we're always learning. I'm always trying to become better and see where I can fill more holes in my own knowledge and just do better for our clients and release better music. So it's always a learning process, and you don't have to start knowing it all. You just have to start.
Those are fantastic tips. Thank you. What mistakes specifically can composers avoid on Audiojungle?
I think when it comes to Audiojungle, it can be a little bit of a different world. And I know one of the big mistakes is that people name their tracks inappropriately. So when you go to Audiojungle, and a lot of licensing websites in general, one of the things that you see is kind of these names like inspiring storyteller in storytelling, inspiring and uplifting folk, inspiring and uplifting corporate, energizing, upbeat EDM. And when you look at that, you think like, oh, this is like some of the most uninspired names ever, ironically. But they're there for a reason, and the reason is that your clients are when you're licensing music to be used in the background of videos and games and things like this. Your client and your customer is looking for music based on emotions, because they're working on a video and they're thinking, oh, I need something to just kind of uplift this spot. I need something to energize this. I need something to motivate. And they're not going to go and type in any abstract artist names like A Somber Walk in the Woods or something like that. So what I often recommend is that when you finish a song, you have two names for it. One name is kind of your artistic name, and that's like whatever name you'd normally give it. And then you have your keyword Audiojungle name, and that is literally just the best, most applicable keywords that fit that song. And I want to be real clear with that, in that you don't just write whatever is the top selling keywords. You write the most accurate keywords for your song. That means that you have to actually distill down the emotions that are contained in your piece of music and call it that emotion. And I know that can actually be a little bit of a practice to get right. I know it actually took me some time to get better and better at that. Like, what's the difference between inspiring and uplifting? But once you like listen to enough tracks and you practice enough, you get better and better at that, and then you can continually, you can always change the name of your songs as well. So you don't have to get married to a name. You can always change it later. But I think that's the biggest thing, is to appropriately title your tracks accurately.
How important are genre sorting? So I know that when you upload a track, you have the option of choosing a genre. Does that matter? Or do you think the Audiojungle admin, they're going to automatically sort that for you?
I don't think it's that important. In the beginning, I know that I was very concerned about it, especially I kind of come from an big electronic background after I was like kind of producing. I know that I was like, they don't have They don't have a difference between like glitch hop here. They don't have, like D&B differences. Like
Yeah.
they just kind of were like electronica. And then I kind of realized that you just go with whatever is the most broad thing that makes sense for you for the song. And if you get it like kind of close enough, it really doesn't matter, because the keywords, once again, the keywords are what matters much, much more. And if you do like totally screw up in your categorization, the reviewer will most likely sort it properly for you. So it's really not a big deal. Just go with whatever is kind of the most applicable. And I think you'll also find this across a lot of licensing platforms, that they're pretty broad about it. So you just kind of go with whatever makes the most sense.
Gotcha. So I have a loaded question here for you, because this has been a really big hot topic in the music industry today, and kind of fast forward looking towards the future. Do you believe that Audiojungle and other royalty-free stock music sites, licensing sites, are going to be valuable in a few years? Because there are sites like Epidemic Sound and Soundstripe. They now have low monthly subscriptions. These models are about $15 a month. Video creators will come in, they will download as many tracks as they want for their videos, versus licensing just one track for $19 plus. How do you suggest new composers without a fan base or following approach the industry with that in mind?
I mean, that's a great question, and this is something I'm always thinking about. I can't predict the future, and I don't know what it will bring, but I do know that we need to be looking at these sources and do never to put our head in the sand about it, to try and always put your eggs in as many baskets as possible. I'm sure that you still own your asset. Your main asset really is your music. And the way that we monetize that music is likely going to change as the years pass, especially as AI begins to get involved. But that's a whole other conversation. But your asset is your music. So I think that I don't necessarily know how it will change, but I do know that we should always be looking out for whatever opportunities are around to be putting our music in the place that it can be used by people who are looking for it, and that it can actually pay us some money. So as these subscription sites become more popular, which I'm sure that they will, because it just makes sense, I think that we need to figure out how we get our music in the hands of these types of places so that we can monetize them. Or potentially in a different direction, I know that there are still large licensing outlets out there, like there's places like Killer Tracks, and there's always people that are looking for kind of larger, big budget places that don't necessarily want to spend just like the $19 and get the whatever track, or just get a quick track. Some people really want a custom curated song, and they're happy to pay more money for it. So I think that there is that other side of it, and I do think that that will still exist, because people with big budgets want the right song, and you can put yourself in that position as well. So I think that it will just make sense for us to always be, once again, putting our eggs in as many baskets as possible. Don't put our head in the sand, and see how we can connect with these new opportunities as they rise up. I don't think it's going to kill anything, but I certainly think it's going to, once again, change things, and I'm not sure how, but I know that we should be looking into it so how we can put ourselves in the best position possible.
That's good. So how do you structure your average work day, average work week with a co-writer? And do you have a minimum amount of music that you have to write every day, every week? How does that work with a business partner who also writes?
Yeah, so generally, I get a little bit of obsessive when I do things. So when I write a song, or when I'm kind of in the groove of writing, I might knock out 3 to 5, maybe even sometimes 6 songs in a week. And templates is very helpful for that, by the way. If you're a composer, just setting up templates can very, very much help you, and as well as using reference tracks. So I definitely highly recommend using reference tracks when you're composing to make things go quickly. But when working with my co-writer, we are both a little bit autonomous in that we will both be working on separate tracks at different times. So Will is fantastic at metal and film score, really. He's really great at it. And I have a little bit more of a background in kind of like pop and electronic influences. And so we might be working on different things at different times, and we'll be shooting things back and forth over messages or Slack or any of these applications, and seeing like, yo, like, what do you think of this right now? Anything I need to change real quick? How's the mix? And we'll kind of just like pop back and forth with each other. Oh yeah, mix sounds great. Maybe just like EQ out this one part in the kick drum. It's a little bit resonant-y. Maybe just like up the volume here. Oh, sounds great. What about this ending? Make sure you get the ending right. And so we kind of work very independently, but also kind of side by side at the same time, just kind of reflecting things back and forth. And then probably about once a month, we'll kind of come together and we'll write a song together. And those are usually when we have a lot of fun in the studio, and it's a good time. So we work both together and separately, and we're usually both working quite often. And as far as our quota, if you will. If we usually like to aim for 2 tracks a week. If we can get 2 tracks a week in, that's pretty good. We feel good about that, and that's usually not that hard to hit between 2 people.
Now, last year you had the opportunity to write a theme for a TV show, and it later turned into more music for that TV show. So how did you land that job as a company, and how was that experience? How did that come about?
Yeah, so that was a great experience, a lot of fun. So that actually came very unexpectedly. So several years ago, I did actually just some mix work for somebody that I met on a forum, on just like a music forum. He posted like, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to mix my meditation things," and I was like, "Oh," I messaged him, I was like, "Hey, I can mix your meditation music." So he sent it over. I mixed it up for him. It was a great thing. It was a fine client job. It was done. And then fast forward to like last year, this was like 3 years later, he said, "Hey, I'm working on a TV show. I have my friend is the main producer on it. He's looking for a composer to do the work. He doesn't want to just use a music library. He wants to actually have a composer. More opportunities for us." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to learn about it. I'd love to talk to the producer." So the producer called me up. I talked to him, and he told me what he wanted. And so what we ended up doing was sending him. Will and I sat down, and we wrote 5 potential themes for him. He asked for 1. We sent him 5, and each one hitting a different kind of feeling. So we had one that was kind of EDM energized. We had one that was more like kind of poppy. We had one that was more like kind of more traditional, even like 80s and 90s style almost. We had one that was hip hop, and we had one that was rock. And when we sent it to him, he actually immediately responded. He was like, "Oh, I have a really good feeling about this. Thank you." And it went kind of back and forth at first. Like it wasn't a sure thing at that point because he actually had other people he was also interviewing for the process. We were competing against actually a few big names. But in the end, we actually got the gig. We got the work because directly he cited it was because of how easy we were to work with and how quick and attentive we were and the quality of work. And so I think that by always being pleasant and always, doing your best and being honest about what you can do is really how you can get happy clients and to continue to get more of them. And that work, doing that theme, he then asked us after we did that, if we could also mix and engineer the entire show.
Wow.
So we said, okay. So he sent us over all the vocals that were recorded, and we were in charge of making the vocals sound good, of kind of chopping up all the vocals so that they weren't stepping on each other, and also placing music beds. So that was one of the first times we were actually in the opposite position of what we normally do, in that we were the ones picking the music to go behind the visuals. And that helped us even more understand kind of what you're looking for to place these things. And we would see sometimes that, very busy leads, for example, they don't work because you're not the speaker. The speaker is the speaker. The media is the speaker. Your music is the supporter. So it's your job to support. And I think that's also a big lesson in writing this kind of music. But yeah, it was a great opportunity, and that led to more work even because we got to know we all in New Jersey. We all met up in New Jersey for a little launch party thing, and it was fun. And we met the video editor there, the person who was actually editing the video, and then he asked us if we would be open to doing more work for him. And so of course we said yes, of course. And now we are doing work for him as well, and it's a fun time. He just sends us videos to edit, and we will do the same stuff. We edit the vocals, we make them sound nice, very similar to kind of working on any kind of song, except the difference is that you're simply working on videos. So instead of EQing all the singers, you're EQing voiceovers and adding music to them. So it's just a slight shift, and it's quite fun.
Wow. I think there's a really valuable lesson here that all composers can learn. You did not send him 1 track. You sent him 5.
Yeah. Yeah, over delivery, I think, is a good thing.
Over delivery is everything, and you gave them all at high quality. So, answer this question. I think I know the answer, but what did you do with the remaining 4 tracks that he did not pick?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think you know as well. We put them on Audiojungle.
Boom. So there you go. Nothing you do is wasted.
That's right, and that's a big thing.
So key, because so often composers feel like, oh, I don't want to submit to that competition. I don't want to submit to that contest. I don't want to overwrite. I don't want to write 5 tracks if they only ask for 1. But if you always have this mentality that you can repurpose every one of your musical assets, you can always sell it in some way, then you're always going to be making money. And one of the big rants that I've had recently, we were talking about this before, Avery, about Spotify, is now this amazing place that you can stream your music that you're not selling, you're not licensing. So if you have all of these leftover tracks you're not doing anything with, go stream them. Or something else, another initiative that I've tried is giving away free music That way people can put it in their projects from your website, use it as a lead magnet to get them onto your newsletter or your email. And that way you now have a direct source with your consumers. And it's a beautiful thing that you can always repurpose your music because it is basically an eternal asset that you can use for everything. So I think that is so important, and that's a great lesson. So as we're kind of coming to a close here, do you have any final words, Avery, for any composer looking to make a career in the music industry?
Yeah, so like the gatekeepers that used to be kind of all over, they're kind of not really there anymore. And it's kind of you are your business. You know, if you create music, if you want to look at it as a business, you want to look at it as just something you're really good at, it's up to you to figure out the avenue that will work for you. Audiojungle and licensing happened to work for me. It was kind of just something that was a fit for me. But maybe for your music, you would be better off maybe making music beds for like rappers and artists and other performers. And if that's the case, then Audiojungle likely is not your outlet. I would look to probably something like BeatStars and connect with labels and see how you can offer your services to them. There are solutions to monetize whatever kind of music you're making. And each one of us has a little bit of a different path that'll work for us. And I think the thing is that we just have to keep throwing our tracks out there and see what sticks. And to always, try and stay as positive as you can about the entire experience. You don't know what's going to be the thing that works for you. I know that I had no idea. Like when I was writing the track that really kind of changed everything and then kind of helped us see that this was what we should be doing. I had no idea when I was writing that song. I was just writing another song. And that one happened to be the one that kind of stuck and showed me this is an avenue that works for me. So I can't necessarily tell you what will work for you, but I can tell you that you should finish tracks often, put them out as many places that make sense for you. And then if something isn't working, try another outlet, but don't stop finishing music. An organization is a big thing, to always kind of know what music you have, where it is, and just don't stop striving to be the best musician that you can be, because we're in this because we love music, right? So you just want to get some money for it, to get paid for what you do. The options are there, but you have to go discover it for yourself. So I hope that you do that, and that you do not give up at your first defeat, because it takes many defeats to see your success.
There are a lot more no's than yeses.
That's right.
Wow, that's such good advice. Bonus question for you. What song was last played on your Spotify or iTunes?
I'm actually not sure. But I'm going to go ahead and take a guess that it's my most popular kind of artist song that I released on YouTube. And that's a song called Compliments, that I have a little robot voice telling you about how awesome you are and lots of positive comments about you. So if you want to look at that, that's Compliments by The Ground Above.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Avery. I know that we got to wrap things up. We both have busy schedules, but I really appreciate you taking the time to answer all my crazy questions here. But I think this is really helpful for a lot of composers starting off, and especially all of your advice about pushing forward and pushing through the no's and constantly using your music. That's really, really inspiring, to be honest. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to sharing this with everybody.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. I'll talk to you soon.